Right, the title that I wanted to discuss with you today, that was actually provoked by Mark's work, is the as if, not method, but as if truth of logotherapy. I don't know if you're aware of the fact that Joseph Fabry, in his book, Guideposts to Meaning, wrote his final chapter on what he called the as if method of logotherapy. And it's a technique with different steps that you act as if you are self-confident and secure. Now, I never liked that, but in what Mark presented, I was provoked to think of the real truth of the as-if method of logotherapy. And that is basically the art of stepping into your role in life, right? This is really the art of meaningful living in the fullest sense of the word, in your unique circumstances, as you are projecting yourself and being yourself in all your unique authenticity. Now, Mark, as you all know, is a performing arts practitioner. And here I just took excerpts from the project that he has presented to us, that he has developed into courses that eventually will be offered through our Logotherapy Community Service Center. Right. And this is from his project itself. The best description of this as if truth of logotherapy is given by Mark. He said, projecting yourself into another character playing your role. This was part of his exercise, the deathbed exercise, but it really succinctly grasps this truth, that you project yourself into another character, almost as if you're seeing yourself play to the profundity of it. It's of becoming someone else, but rather a process of creating from the only available source of expression, your unique self, my word. And then he went on to say about writing stories, okay? And he described it as such, a manuscript which is accessible and both deeply personal and highly universal. The theme being the uniqueness of the self, with emphasis on the spiritual dimension which exists within the context of you, cannot be divorced without sacrificing responsibility, conscience, and meaning. My word. He's saying this from this unique, what is experienced as a okay? And he says the very provocative next thing, which he did not mention in his talks with you, but which I know, he said, this is within the context of an atheistic belief system and worldview, which is rooted in a deeply moral connection to conscience and responsibility, and which embodies a unique understanding and acceptance of Frankl's concept of the unconscious God. Wow. let's explore that. And I was reminded of the first atheist student that I knew of that approached me, having seen some of my videos online, and saying to me, "You so often refer to scripture, and I'm just wondering whether I, as an atheist, will be accepted as a student of logotherapy." Well, I said, wow, of course. And then I told him what I have just captured here this afternoon, and which I will read to you, where Frank said, only one truth, but no one can say that he has the truth and nothing but the truth. There is, beyond the human level, the level of the transcendent that encompasses all, and that Frankl calls the suprahuman dimension of being. That is a level beyond the level of human grasp. To God, Frankl said, we can only pray. This being the case, we have to remain open vessels to experience on the uniquely spiritual or human dimension of being the objectivity of the laws of meaningful living. Meaning is not of our own discovered through uniquely personal, makes itself known and manifests itself on the human level. And as much as we must be open to greater spiritual illumination and grasp from a transcendence filtering through to our conscience and to our awareness, and as we gain wisdom and understanding through personal experience, we must remain open to one another. Never can religion be forced, as Frankl said. It must develop in its own time. And he said, if religion is to survive, it has to be profoundly personalized. And I'm reminded of a saying that was posted some time ago: who wants to be a copy if you are born as an original? So, what must we make of Mark? Is he, as he insists, an atheist? Well, yes. And what depths of discovery of our inherent and essential being his work has uncovered. How unique and stupendously beautiful his unique journey to find the meaning of his own life, one he fervently believes he can and has found. And this is captured in his statement. Atheists can be expert logotherapists. He has proved this to be true. He speaks about the breath of life. Oh, the breath of life, to breathe so freely beyond the restrictions of narrow-minded smallness of religious dogmatisms. How Frankl warned us against reductionism, he said, you cannot speak of God. You cannot make him a religion. You can't explain him and then expound him and force him upon others. And that is reductionism. You have to be open to a higher level, and that higher level encompasses all the lower levels. So how great is this kind of being, this kind of openness to be and receptivity to revelation of divine truths. And therefore, I applaud your atheism, Mark, and I wholly embrace it. You've opened fountains of living truths embedded in all of our inherent perceptions of what is truly divine. There is no such thing as an irreligious person, Frankl said. You've opened up an in-depth connection in a flow of creative freedom to the unconscious God, a God so beyond rational comprehension and misinterpretation. And I thank you. The second part that I want us to consider is what I call the people of the law. I'm here in Israel. When I was in South Africa, I wrote this little poem about Samuel, my son. Like a tender plant in foreign soil, his roots refuse to go down. I had to unleash his story for him. As a little boy, he came to me and he said, "Mommy, school is wasting my playing time. Don't give me dogmatic ideas that I'm supposed to ingest and then give forth for approval. I want to explore." And he was an adventurer and a naturalist and an ecologist from the word go. And then when he one day said to me, "Ma, the writing is on the wall. I'm going to Israel." Writing on the wall of rising anti-Semitism in South Africa. And of course, Mark, you spoke about a child leading us, your daughter leading you to greater understanding. Samuel led us to Israel. He went before us. And it also released my own story, being married to a Jew. And I wrote this as a declaration of my story. It's what Ruth said when she joined the people of God. "Entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go. And wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me." Now, this is what I am seeing and experiencing right here in Israel right now. It really is an encapsulation of what happened to me when I met Frankl for the first time and I listened to him speaking. And that very night, I was confronted with the death of my father back in South Africa. And I heard a voice, my father's voice, saying to me, "Fill up your diary with David. Fill up your life with David." And this was my Ruth mission. But Frankl evoked this poem in me. And I entitled it "The Jewish Question." Where was God in the Holocaust? How can I answer you? I can only attest that he is. When I asked him where he was in the Holocaust, he turned to me and said, "Where were you?" And this is what I'm experiencing in Israel right now. Are we here for one another? Oh my word, I cannot describe to you that in the face of the horror that has overtaken us, where a blatant evil has shown itself, has shown its face, that there is such an outpouring of unity, togetherness, a common will to common meaning. We will survive. And we'll survive triumphantly. It's the story of the Holocaust all over again in the mouth of Frankl, when he said, "Suffering makes us aware of what ought not to be, but that makes us keenly aware of what ought to be, and we commit our lives to what ought to be." My word, just one of the latest things that just came across, people are WhatsApping each other all over the show. But just to show you the goodness that has been unleashed, the spirit, the beautiful and defiantly courageous spirit of a human being being seen here in Israel. This is a person that says, one of my rabbis saw an announcement asking for people to host family from the south. As you know, the southern kibbutzim and towns were devastated. And what happened there is beyond description, and I'm not even going to mention them. You must have seen and heard about it. But now there is a total evacuation of the inhabitants that still live there, especially from Sderot. And he said he called 45 minutes later, and the guy said, "You're way too late. We already found everyone a place." And he asked how many families it was. And he said it was 6,000 families. They found 45 minutes. Now, isn't that an outpouring of goodness? You know, Mark spoke about the protagonist. Who is the wolf, our enemies, the protagonist? Or what? Who is that protagonist that says, in the face of this evil, what are you going to do? And it is a challenge that has been put by the protagonist to the whole world. What are you going to do in the face of the anti-Semitism that has shown itself in the Holocaust and that has kept alive after it? And it, you know, like the saying goes, all that evil needs to triumph in the world is for good men to do nothing, or to be complacent, or to try and compromise and contain evil instead of calling it to book. But this time, from the world over, there has been such a solidarity expressed with the nation of Israel that it is quite overwhelming. You know, if I couldn't see, and this was the horror that I experienced when I looked at the faces of the horror of the terrorists who were taking mothers and babies and old women very brutally into hostage. And I looked at their faces, and I was astounded that the faces looked human, because it's totally inhuman. They have lost a human face. But boy, have I seen the beauty of the human faces in the outpouring of love and support from the world. And have I seen that beautiful face also among you. And I thank you for your support and outpouring of love to us. Now, I want to do, just to come back to the as if truth of logotherapy. Do you know that with the revelation of and being shown the full face of evil incarnate, it's as if we, who all have an unconscious relatedness to what is divine, and we seek it. We seek, like man's search for meaning is a search for the ultimate meaning of our lives, for the mission, for the role we are to play. And this is what has been evoked, almost like we were thrust into the as if roles that we have striven after, that we've tried to portray, or that we try to achieve. Suddenly we are who we have been created to be. We've been thrust into who we truly should be. Oh my, this is such a miracle. I'm telling you, this is a life transformative event, not just for us here in Israel, but in the whole world. We will see an emergence of a stronger common will to common meaning, just as Mark had expounded it, that each one personally and profoundly align themselves with the universal thrust of what we as human beings are supposed to be, humane. Do you know what? There will never be a Holocaust again. Why? Because humankind has become more humane, right? The world has become more human. And we really are coming to a place, what have we got to do with that? We will not touch the unclean thing, right? We will stand against it. And this is the final overcoming, the defiant power of the human spirit, that actually the falsehoods and the lies of the anti-Semitic and the racial, the prejudice, the incited belief systems actually expose. You know, when I said the people of the law, it's simple, you know. The ultimate, the divine, said to us, do not portray a false conception of me. I am a God of love. That is what Frankel discovered in the camps. Man is saved in and through love. And anything that's inhumane and loveless, that is a false conception of the divine. That is an idol. You know, we've been killed in the name of people screaming, Allah Akbar. What a conception of a God that seeks vengeance and killing and murder, and that this is the pagan concept of God, that you have to sacrifice even your children to appease a punitive God. Oh, wow, what a false conception. And where is the true conception of God shown? That you love your fellow man as yourself, that you see the dignity and the uniqueness, and that you evoke that fundamental will to meaning, and unleash what Mark does so effectively, those waters of creativity that come out and saying, this is me, this is my part, this is what I want to give, this is what I have to give, in so many creative and wonderful ways. There's no end to the limitations. There is no limitations to love. It is endless and it's everlasting. You either keep it and foster it or lose it. That's the choice. But I want to end with Diana, because, you know, as I listened to the recording, because I myself wasn't there, of your last Zoom session with Mark, you know, it's and Pan was particularly concerned that Diana was sort of cut off, that there was much more to discuss and experience in what she was saying. But I believe that that what you had listened to in Mark's wonderful and creative exposition of all that he is doing, and the profound effect of his work on others, that and as an avowed atheist, now I'm so glad, Mark, you spell that God with a small g. That's not the God we serve. And that's why I embrace your atheism so absolutely and completely. And this is the glory of, for me, of logotherapy, that yes, it's available to absolutely everybody, because we're all searching for the one truth, the one thing that makes our lives seem sensible and with purpose and direction. and we see it from different perspectives. And boy, do we need each other to complement our own views, to provoke our own thoughts. And, you know, it's a togetherness that is so creative that it is astoundingly beautiful. And this is what the picture that I believe that we are going to see, and the role that we have to play as logotherapists in after this war, after we've seen its devastating defeat of the enemy. Okay? But coming back to Diana, you know, Mark voiced his faith as an atheist in his protest against what he called, and I quote him, the disacknowledgement that atheists can have the potential to make great logotherapists, not in spite of their atheism, but because of it. Oh, wow, to break the barriers of constrictive and small-minded legalisms in religious teachings, and to open the doors like we do. You know why? When did this event take place? Not only on the Sabbath. We celebrate the complete Sabbath rest where we will be in total harmony with one another, and where there will not be crying or suffering anymore, and no one will hurt in all my holy mountain, God says. My word, what my thoughts have just But that's the doors that we open, that we celebrate on Shabbat, that rest, and, you know, to get the new invigoration of energy for the next week as we move closer and closer to the eventual shalom on all the earth. But it was also on the day of Simchat Torah. What is that? It's the final feast in the Jewish calendar. And the whole calendar is a story of the Jewish people. And it's our story that we have been delivered from Egypt, from bondage. We are free to what? Receive the law, which is Shavuot. And then the long process of internalizing that law, that it becomes part of us and then we live it from the heart in personal commitment to the glory of that law, of loving a God and loving each other as ourselves. Oh my, the Creator that's given us breath to breathe, the right kind of breath to breathe, a spiritual breath to breathe, the spirit of comprehension, so divine and never ending. But that's so after Shavuot, and the long period between Shavuot and then Rosh Hashanah, which is the Feast of Trumpets, to blow the trumpet. Come on, embrace who you are. There's a new life for each one of us as we come out of bondage, and as we have internalized that law. And in the repentance, like a Job that said, I've heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. Oh my, what we dress in white on Yom Kippur, because it's a bridal feast. And the last feast is the celebration of the law. The happiness of the law, the joy of the law, the law that brings us into a unity with each other. And the custom is to invite all of the wonderful forebears, the bearers of light in this world, and Abram, and Isaac, and Jacob, and Joseph, and Moses, and Aaron, and David, the 7 great forebears of the Jewish faith. And King Messiah, because it ends with King Messiah. It's really what it is, a messianic rule on earth where we have fulfilled our messianic visions. And in that sukkah in which we sit, as a declaration of our dependence on the divine, that we are recipients of transcendent truths that filter through our flimsy roofs that we put on these flimsily made sukkahs, that we are under the clouds of glory. And that's when we invite the 70 nations into the sukkah. You know, when there were 70 families that came out of, that came to Egypt when there was drought, and there God delivered him from all that is Egyptian in the sense of being idolatrous and violent and evil and oppressive, right? But it so clearly said, when God gave the nations their countries, the 70 nations, he did it according to the number of the children of Israel, right? So this is such a pivotal story in which I am seeing before my eyes here in Israel, and coming back now at last. Dear Diana, sorry that I took such a detour, but I'm coming back to what you said, because you actually gave Mark the affirmation of his singularity and his uniqueness of being by saying this of yourself: I am a story being told. I am a story being told. What does that mean? The script has been written. Her life, Mark's life, your and my life was uniquely meant to be. Finding that uniqueness and living it in a profoundly personal way, as it is aligned with the universal values applicable to all of us, is what we are all challenged to do. Israel's story is our story. And like I said, if I did not see, if I really saw evil unmasked in the callousness, heartlessness, lovelessness, and hatred, so cold-blooded that it could tie families together, shoot them and burn them alive, or burn them alive, and capitate babies. What is this? It's an assault on life itself. Choose life that you may live, and that is death and cursing. And you know, what are we after? We after a clear division between right and wrong. That's conscience. That we do what is right, the one right thing to do in every situation, and we refuse to do the wrong that is an alternative, so slyly offered to us. Oh, don't do it, it's too hard. Or, you know, here's another alternative. Not to listen to those voices, and also voices of criticism. Who are you? What do you know? You know, what can you do? All lies that enter through into our minds, because we are still struggling to know what it is that we are essentially meant to do. As we suffer evil and we don't know what to do with it, but when we begin to know that we have to overcome that evil with the good that has been invested in us, that is that final. I spoke of Psalm 23 with my optimal living students on Tuesday evening, and saying, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. When fear leaves us, and we experience this great courage to be, well, your rod and your staff protect me. I'm so open to correction, and I'm so open to learn through the guidance I'm receiving from others and all around me. Oh boy, that in the end, a table has been prepared for me, and my head is anointed with oil, and my cup overflows in the very presence of my enemies. Thank you. Some comments. Mark, I love you. I adore you.
Teria?
Yes.
tonight, just knowing that we can click on and listen to you, for me, was like mind-blowing. I had to. Um, the subject which we're discovering right now. And I love this time of opportunity, the time of reflection. And I think the two go so hand in hand and so beautifully, like you articulate, on the basis of that opportunity to open our minds and refresh our minds. We had an event of COVID-19, which changed the world. We had September 11, 9/11, which changed the world. All of these events come always at the correct time, always. There's no mistake that this happened on exactly the time that it happened, the exact time in terms of the attack, the very first attack. All happens with a reason. And that reason is giving us the opportunity to actually move forward and to think and open our minds up. And I call it brain breathing, where our brains have a time and a chance to breathe, both our minds as well as our bodies and our souls. And that's the time of opening up those beautiful senses that we have to appreciate what life is all about. And tonight, just sitting and listening is what it's all about. And just listening. And how often have we received the ears from so many people around the world? Just the ear. We don't have to have the guidance. We don't have to have whatever else needs to come with it. It is just having the ear to listen and to process in the right way. And the process in the right way is attitude. And the attitude is how we're going to move forward. And my acronym, AAAG, stand for accept, acknowledge, attitude, and gratitude. The gratitude stands for the opportunity of being able to say thank you for this situation. Today there was a father who came and he saw his little girl had been killed, and he shouted with joy. He said, thank goodness she's dead, because had she been a hostage, who knows what would have happened. That is real human understanding of what is going on. And tonight, just having so many people here, so many beautiful souls, it is really amazing. Thank you, Teria.
Well, you do remind me of the fact when I was first faced with Holocaust stories, I couldn't digest it. I didn't know what to do with it. And it was so astounding what came to my mind, that, the bodies being burned to ashes in the ovens. It was like I saw their spirits rising, to a place of rest and waiting, a paradise. And what a distortion of paradise we have, that if you kill, you go to paradise. And like Frankel said, the best of us did not survive. But the wonderful consolation of knowing that life is everlasting. Every baby that's been killed, every young child, all those youngsters in the desert, there's a world to come, and they are part of that world, and that affirms the story that you're just telling. And I heard another story of a rabbi who also has lost his, I can't remember if it was his son or his daughter, and I think it was his son. It was a soldier, I think, but where he said his legacy lives on. In fact, he was one, oh yes, now I get the story. He was one of the soldiers who fought for this particular kibbutz not to be invaded and was killed in the process. But through his efforts and the soldiers who joined this particular kibbutz, the people were saved. And he said, now, he's given life to so many that can go on. If you sacrifice, this is a real martyrdom, sacrificing your life out of love and a sense of protection for one another. Yeah.
If I may, again, I'm sorry that I'm taking the second part here. But Mark, I also want to compliment you on the amazing work that flows from your beautiful mind. It is absolutely amazing, and the work that you do. And I've been privileged to be part of listening to that story and the stories that you do. And I encourage you to go ahead and to write that book, because not only can you do this the way that you're doing it now, I'm encouraging you to write the book, and your stories need to be heard. And maybe there'll be one or more books over there. And I'm looking forward to that. So Mark, my compliments go to you in terms of bringing us together today, of Diana asking these questions. And yes, I thank you. You know, everything is about thought-provoking. And it's amazing how people pick up a word here and a word there. I pick up a word and I write it in my little black book. And I go away and I'm busy and I think about it. And that evolves to more words. And when you have an aging brain like mine, I try to make sure that it doesn't age as fast, and I try and slow down that process. And it's amazing how you take a word, and I often try and see if I can move the word around backwards. So let's say we have the word stress, for example. So I try and spell it backwards, and let's see what else it can make. It's amazing how you discover these things, even from a word or what somebody says. And I think one has an open mind, one thinks laterally. Those kind of things are so beautiful. And you start having these visions in your mind, these images. And I'm talking about positive images, of having those positive images, or just having that image. And it is so beautiful that we have the eyes to see, and we have the ears to listen, and we can touch. And how important is taste? Taste is so very important. You know, it comes to a stage when you're talking, and if you have a lot of beautiful taste in your mouth, you can actually really articulate and do things and talk. But when you have a bad taste in your mouth, literally, you'll have bad thoughts and bad ideas. So our senses are so very important. Sorry that I carried on for so long.
No, that's wonderful, Sean. And your own perspective is also so unique. And I loved what Mark was doing, in also the recollection of a tragic moment, of a difficult moment. And then to just, through de-reflection and also self-distancing, reconsider the story and see what you've missed. And what are the changing elements waiting to be discovered there? Because this, you know, it's like here in Israel, we were so shocked and stunned for the first few days, I couldn't think straight. But then the truth of this tragic story started to emerge, the meanings of it. And this is what we do with our clients, because in every tragic moment, meaning is invested to be discovered, right? Dida, I see your lovely face.
Yes. Thank you. I would like to refer to something, and it relates also to our last meeting with Mark. Mark, I've already told you how fantastic both your presentations were, and how I enjoyed them tremendously. And I want to relate to a remark that I believe her name is Marilyn made. She's not here tonight. She made it at the end of our last session, and she suddenly said, when you described all the fantastic, marvelous exercises that you do in terms of theater in order to discover meaning and uniqueness, she said suddenly, we know that we are all wearing masks, and the whole world is masks, and the whole world is a stage, like Shakespeare said. And that made me thinking later of ancient Greek. You know, when we I'll try to make it short. When we talk about Greek theater, we talk about the persona that the actors were having on their faces. And normally when we talk about it superficially, we talk about it as if we're playing a role, and which Teria just related to it. But what is playing a role? In the lines that Teria described it tonight, following what Mark has taught us, is the opposite. It's actually coming into the very uniqueness of yourself through playing a role of another character. And that is incredible, because suddenly I understood afterwards, I have thought about it, and I understood afterwards that when you have to play a character that is far from you, you cannot identify with that character, you are taking in creativity the whole potential, the full potential in yourself of all the possibilities that exist in you, even though this character is not like yourself, but the whole potential of your being also includes that character as well. So in that respect, when we talk about our uniqueness and about our authenticity, it's not anymore a mask, it's not a persona, but it's the opposite.
Yeah,
you become one with that persona, with that mask, and that was the whole idea of Greek theater, and that made me understood that.
Yeah, well, there's a description, what you said, of the as if. We're striving to have the face that we want to have. But, it's so fantastic to see that the unmasking of absolute evil has unmasked utter goodness. It's like, it's quite interesting to see that the terrorists usually like to mask their faces, and to make it look fearsome and terrorizing, in comparison to an open face, with open eyes, so ready to smile and to express love. It's these stark opposites that make a decision for the one against the other so magnificent every day in every way. And it's just like you become more and more beautiful. You just become more and more beautiful.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of that when you talked about unmasking the evil, and also that the world looks like what it looks like, not because they are bad people, but because good people don't have enough courage to stand against it and speak.
All right. Okay. Thank you for the remarks that coming through, but I'm so stupid with technology that, Leslie, thank you for your remark. Yes, Mark.
Hi, I just want to say thank you to everybody for the wonderful response to what I presented, and particularly to you, Dr. Shantall. I sit here now as a man that I was not 10 years ago, and I have become the person that I am today because of logotherapy and because of people like Dr. Shantall and Sean in my life. 10 years ago, even a little bit longer before logotherapy came into my life, I was somebody who lived purely for my own pleasure. I had lots of problems with alcohol and drugs and various other issues. And somehow logotherapy discovered me. And, this is why I talk about atheism being such, so many people question me about my lack of belief, and it's so wonderful to be affirmed, because atheism is anything but a lack of belief. It is a belief in so much. It is a belief in so much that I have to expound and create and measure myself against every single day of my life. And that was something that logotherapy taught me, because I was an atheist who ran from responsibility, accountability, and meaning. And logotherapy taught me. I also believed that I was not a spiritual being, and to discover that I was very late in life, in my 50s, was quite miraculous. And that is what has enabled me to do the work that I'm doing now, to become a parent, all the things that I never thought I would have in my life, and those have all come to me through logotherapy, and the very, very profound influence that Dr. Shantall, Dr. Kanda, and now Sean this year in particular have had on my life on a daily basis. So I'd really like to just acknowledge that. And one of the things that I remember saying when the courses were still at UNISA, I remember one day having a really, what felt to me like a very profound revelation in one of the classes. And I said, everybody in this room, there was nobody who had a sort of wishy-washy belief system. Everybody was either a devout follower of a kind of a religion, or a devout atheist like me. And I noticed that all of our belief systems, whatever they were strengthened through logotherapy. Those who were Catholics became more devout Catholics. Those who were Jewish seemed to become more devout, more entrenched in their faith. I became more entrenched in my profound belief in my own person as a spiritual being, and what it takes for me to understand who I am morally and how to live as the best person I can be. Those boundaries were just extended and expanded for all of us. And it's something that I feel happening constantly in my daily life, because of my encounter with logotherapy, which I had never heard of, and which found me. One thing I'm a great believer in is synergy. And Dita, I'd just like to pick up on what you were saying about the Greek theater. And that is so true, because what those Greek masks did, obviously they were also to amplify the voices in those massive, beautiful, wonderful Greek amphitheaters. But any mask tends to can only create a one-dimensional image of an emotion. And so when, as an actor, there is a mask which doesn't move on the face, how much more the responsibility comes to find the truth of that emotion coming from the core, coming from the spirit, in order to play through. So the mask is giving us the general feeling of what that emotion is. But we, as unique beings, are providing the audience with the subtle nuances of emotion. And I always say to actors, if I say to you, if you're an interior designer and I say to you, paint my lounge red, you're not going to know what to paint, are you? Because there's no such thing as red. There's 50 million shades of red. Emotions are the same. And each and every one of us has our own unique way of expressing them. And because of that, we are constantly able to provide other people with insights into the world of emotions and what they mean to us in different ways, and how we can reframe emotions for ourselves. So thank you, everybody.
I want to just end our meeting with a few remarks to you, Mark, which I think we all feel. Logotherapy arouses a passion in us. It's a passion for life. It's a passion for life's meaning. And it really is a passion to evoke the truth of the dignity of a human being in each one that we meet. Because all of us are given this gift of life. And, with the inherent desire to experience it, to understand it, and in the end, to live it in a fully creative and authentic way, that we can really say, I am life and life is part of me. And that's the passion that was evoked in me when I first met you. I saw the uniqueness. I saw the talent. And you know, I saw the face of the struggle that had thrown you into what you described before you had logotherapy had found you. That it was actually also a protest against what was lyingly transmitted to you, and which you were protesting against, but you didn't know how to protest. It's only when you found your own voice through logotherapy, a voice that was seen and heard by logotherapists like myself and Sean and Kanda and whoever else, all the students that you had met during the time, and of course through the writings of Viktor Frankl himself, that this incredible fountain of creativity was opened in you. And I would end by describing you as a godly atheist. How's that?
Great.
Okay. Everybody, let's embrace each other and our beautiful differences. And don't let's ever judge it or minimize it or restrict it or make it less than it is. Let's celebrate each other, okay? Because boy, I'm so glad you're not me, and I'm so glad that you're that I'm not you, but that I can look at you and you can look at me. That is the real connection, the divine connection. The human face, the beauty of the breath that has been breathed into us, to be able to eventually breathe freely and everlastingly. Oh boy, what a future is waiting for all of us.